Xara's heart raced as she sprinted through the dense, otherworldly forest. Her mind was a whirlwind of fear and determination. The Vrell, a merciless race of conquerors, had launched a surprise attack on her home planet, Lyris. The once peaceful and vibrant world was now engulfed in chaos and destruction. Xara, a young Lyran girl with iridescent skin and luminous blue eyes, had narrowly escaped the initial onslaught, but her luck was running out. The escape pod she had managed to find was old and barely functional. It took all her technical knowledge to get it airborne, and even then, the journey was perilous. As she fled the carnage, she could only hope that the pod would hold together long enough to reach safety. "Please," she whispered to herself, clutching a small, glowing pendant around her neck, a gift from her parents. "Please, let me find help." But the Vrell were relentless. Their ships pursued her through space, firing at her fragile pod. Xara's desperate maneuvers kept her alive, but the pod sustained heavy damage. Just as she thought all hope was lost, she spotted a small, blue planet in the distance. Using the last of the pod's power, she set a course for the planet's surface, praying that she would survive the crash landing. The pod hurtled through Earth's atmosphere, a blazing comet streaking across the night sky. Xara braced herself for impact, tears streaming down her face. She thought of her family, her friends, and all she had lost. As the pod smashed into the ground, darkness enveloped her, and she knew no more. The crash. Jack Turner was no stranger to solitude. After years of service in the military, he had chosen a life of seclusion in a remote cabin nestled deep within the forest. The quiet, the isolation, it suited him. He spent his days tending to his land, fishing in the nearby river, and enjoying the peace that nature provided. But that night, the peace was shattered. Jack was sitting on his porch, sipping a cup of hot tea and gazing at the stars, when he saw it, a fiery streak across the sky, descending rapidly towards the forest. His instincts kicked in immediately. He grabbed his flashlight and rifle and set off towards the crash site. It didn't take long for him to find it. The forest was illuminated by the glow of the wreckage. As he approached, he saw a small, metallic pod half buried in the earth, smoke and sparks emanating from its damaged exterior. He heard a faint, muffled sound. Someone was inside. Without hesitation, Jack pried open the pod's hatch, revealing a sight that took his breath away. There, unconscious and gravely injured, lay a girl unlike any he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with an ethereal glow, and her features were delicate and otherworldly. He knew immediately that she was not of this world. "Hang on," he muttered, carefully lifting her out of the wreckage. She was surprisingly light, and he could feel her shallow breaths against his chest. "I've got you." Jack carried her back to his cabin, moving as quickly and gently as he could. He laid her down on his bed and began tending to her injuries with the limited medical supplies he had. He cleaned her wounds, bandaged her cuts, and did his best to make her comfortable. As he worked, he couldn't help but wonder about the strange girl who had crash-landed in his forest. Who was she? Where had she come from? And, most importantly, what dangers might follow her to his doorstep? A stranger in the woods. Xara's eyes fluttered open, her vision blurred and her body aching. She felt disoriented and weak, her mind struggling to make sense of her surroundings. The last thing she remembered was the crash, the blinding pain, and then darkness. Now, she found herself in a small, rustic cabin, lying on a makeshift bed. Her wounds were bandaged, and the room was filled with the comforting warmth of a crackling fire. She tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness forced her back down. "Easy there," a voice said gently. Xara turned her head to see a human man standing by her side. He had a rugged appearance, with a weathered face and kind eyes that shone with concern. She tensed, unsure of his intentions. "You're safe," he reassured her. "My name's Jack. I found you in the woods after your pod crashed." Xara's mind raced. She had learned about humans in her studies, but she had never imagined she would meet one, let alone be saved by one. She struggled to find her voice, her alien language unfamiliar to him. "Thank you," she managed to say in halting English, a language she had learned only the basics of. Jack smiled. "You're welcome. Can you tell me your name?" "Xara," she replied, wincing as she shifted on the bed. "My name is Xara." Jack nodded. "Well, Xara, you're safe here. I don't know where you came from or what happened to you, but I'll do my best to help you." Xara felt a surge of gratitude. Despite her fear and uncertainty, she sensed a genuine kindness in Jack. She nodded weakly, too exhausted to say more. Jack watched as she drifted back to sleep, his mind racing with questions. Who was this mysterious girl? What had brought her to Earth, and what dangers might follow? He knew that he needed answers, but for now, the priority was ensuring her safety and recovery. Learning to trust. Days turned into weeks as Xara slowly recovered under Jack's care. Communication between them was difficult at first, but they found ways to bridge the gap. Xara's grasp of English improved, and Jack's patience and understanding helped her feel more at ease. Jack learned that Xara was from a distant planet called Lyris, and that she had fled from a brutal attack by the Vrell. He listened intently as she described her home, her people, and the horrors she had witnessed. Despite the language barrier, her pain and fear were clear. "We need to fix your pod," Jack said one evening as they sat by the fire. "It's the only way to contact your people and get you home." Xara nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "Yes. But we need parts. And tools. My pod. Very damaged." Jack stood up, his resolve firm. "Then we'll get what we need. I have some supplies here, but we'll have to venture into town for the rest." Xara looked at him with a mix of gratitude and apprehension. "Thank you, Jack. You. Very kind." Jack smiled. "We're in this together, Xara. Let's get you home." Their journey into town was filled with challenges. Xara had to hide her appearance, and Jack had to navigate the complexities of human society to gather the necessary supplies. But their bond grew stronger with each obstacle they overcame. Back at the cabin, they worked side by side to repair the pod. Xara's knowledge of Lyran technology combined with Jack's resourcefulness made them a formidable team. Slowly but surely, the pod began to take shape. As they worked, they shared stories of their respective worlds. Xara spoke of the lush, vibrant landscapes of Lyris, while Jack recounted tales of Earth's history and humanity's achievements. Despite their differences, they found common ground in their shared experiences and dreams. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Xara looked at Jack with a serious expression. "Jack, Vrell. They will come. They follow me. We must be ready." Jack nodded, his face determined. "We'll be ready, Xara. We'll face them together." And so, their bond of trust and friendship deepened, forged in the fires of adversity. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they also knew that they were stronger together. With each passing day, their resolve to protect each other and find a way home grew stronger. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their determination to survive and thrive in a world that was both strange and familiar. Cultural exchange. The sun rose over the dense forest surrounding Jack's cabin, casting a golden light on the dewy leaves and filling the air with the sound of chirping birds. The peace of the early morning was a stark contrast to the turmoil that had brought Xara to Earth, but it was a welcome change. As she looked out of the window, taking in the beauty of her new surroundings, she felt a sense of calm that had been absent since the attack on Lyris. Jack, who had become her caretaker and friend, was already awake, preparing breakfast in the small kitchen. The smell of coffee and freshly cooked eggs filled the cabin, mingling with the earthy scent of the forest. Xara's stomach growled, reminding her that she had not yet fully adjusted to the human concept of meals. "Good morning, Xara," Jack said with a warm smile as she joined him at the table. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, thank you, Jack," Xara replied, her English improving steadily with each passing day. "I am still Learning to sleep here, but it gets better. Jack nodded, understanding the difficulty of adjusting to a new environment. You'll get used to it. And if there's anything you need, just let me know. As they ate, Jack and Xara continued their daily ritual of exchanging knowledge about their respective cultures. It had become a cornerstone of their growing friendship, a way to bridge the vast gap between their worlds. Tell me more about Lyris, Jack said, leaning forward with interest. What's it like? Zara's eyes sparkled with fondness as she began to describe her home. Lyris is beautiful. Our cities are built into the natural landscape, blending with the forests and mountains. We have advanced technology, but we live in harmony with nature. Our people value knowledge, art, and community. Jack listened intently, fascinated by the description. It sounds incredible. I'd love to see it someday. Xara smiled wistfully. I hope you can, Jack. You would be welcome there. In return, Xara asked Jack about Earth. She had learned a great deal already, but there was always more to discover. Tell me about your history, Jack. How did humans come to be where they are now? Jack leaned back in his chair, pondering where to begin. Well, human history is long and complicated. We've come a long way from living in caves and hunting with spears. Over thousands of years, we've built civilizations, developed technology, and explored our world. But we've also made a lot of mistakes along the way. Xara nodded, understanding the complexity of progress. It is similar with my people. Progress always comes with challenges. Their conversations often ventured into more specific topics. One day, Jack introduced Xara to music, playing various genres from classical to rock. Xara was entranced by the melodies and rhythms, her alien senses experiencing human music for the first time. This is amazing, she said, her eyes closed as she listened to a symphony. We have music on Lyris, but it is different. Yours is full of emotions. Jack smiled, watching her reaction. Music is a big part of our culture. It helps us express what we sometimes can't put into words. In turn, Xara shared Lyran art with Jack, using a holographic device she had managed to salvage from her pod. The intricate patterns and vibrant colors of the Lyran artwork mesmerized Jack, each piece telling a story of its own. Your art is beautiful, Jack said, his voice filled with awe. It's like looking into another world. As their days together turned into weeks, they continued to learn from each other, their bond growing ever stronger. Xara taught Jack about Lyran technology, explaining how their systems worked and how they used renewable energy to power their cities. Jack, in turn, showed Xara how humans had developed their own technologies, from the simple will to complex computers. One evening, while sitting by the fire, Xara asked Jack about his past. She had shared much of her own story, but Jack had been more reserved about his. Jack, you have been so kind to me. But I realize I know little about your life before we met. Will you tell me? Jack sighed, staring into the flames. There's not much to tell, really. I served in the military for many years. Saw a lot of things I wish I hadn't. After I left, I just wanted to find some peace. That's why I came out here, away from everything. Xara placed a hand on his arm, her touch gentle. You have found peace here. And now, you have found a friend. Jack smiled, feeling a warmth in his heart that he hadn't felt in a long time. Yes, I have. Thank you, Xara. Their cultural exchange was more than just sharing knowledge. It was a journey of understanding and empathy, bringing them closer together and strengthening their friendship. They learned to see the world through each other's eyes, finding beauty in their differences and unity in their shared experiences. As the weeks went by, the threat of the Vrell loomed ever larger in the back of their minds. But for now, in this moment of peace and camaraderie, they were content to build their bond and prepare for whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that together, they were stronger than they could ever be alone. The Vrell threat. The tranquility of the forest was shattered one morning by the sudden, ominous hum of an approaching spacecraft. Xara and Jack, who had been working on repairing the escape pod, immediately tensed. The familiar sound sent a chill down Xara's spine. "It's them," she whispered, fear evident in her eyes. "The Vrell." Jack's expression hardened. "We need to be ready. Let's get inside." They hurried to the cabin, quickly securing the door and windows. Jack grabbed his rifle and handed Xara a small, modified weapon they had salvaged from her pod. It was a crude replica of Lyran technology, but it would have to do. "Stay close," Jack instructed, peering out a crack in the window. "We don't know how many there are." Xara nodded, her heart pounding. The Vrell were relentless hunters, and she knew they wouldn't stop until they had captured or killed her. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. "We must be careful. They are very dangerous." The hum grew louder, and soon, a sleek, black Vrell ship descended through the trees, landing with a thud in a nearby clearing. The ship's hatch opened, and a group of tall, menacing figures emerged. Their reptilian features and cold, calculating eyes sent a wave of dread through Xara. Jack and Xara watched as the Vrell scanned the area, clearly searching for something, or someone. "We can't let them find us," Jack whispered. "We need to stay hidden and wait for an opportunity to strike." Xara nodded, clutching her weapon tightly. "They are very strong, but they rely on their technology. If we can disrupt their systems, we might have a chance." Jack's mind raced, thinking of a plan. What if we lure them away from the cabin? Use the forest to our advantage. Xara considered the idea. It could work. The trees will limit their movements. But how do we lure them? Jack thought for a moment. "I can create a distraction. You stay hidden and take them out when they're vulnerable." "No," Xara said firmly. "We do this together. I won't let you face them alone." Jack saw the determination in her eyes and knew she was right. They had to work as a team if they wanted to survive. "All right. Together." They waited, watching as the Vrell spread out, methodically searching the area. Jack and Xara moved silently through the cabin, positioning themselves near the back door. Jack whispered his plan to Xara, and she nodded in agreement. On Jack's signal, they burst out of the cabin, running towards the thickest part of the forest. The Vrell immediately noticed the movement and gave chase. Jack and Xara weaved through the trees, using the dense foliage to obscure their path. The Vrell followed, their advanced sensors struggling to keep track of the fleeing figures. Once they had led the Vrell deep into the forest, Jack and Xara split up, circling back to flank their pursuers. Jack found a vantage point on a rocky outcrop, while Xara took cover behind a large tree, her weapon at the ready. The Vrell, now spread out and disoriented, were prime targets. Jack took aim and fired, hitting one of the Vrell soldiers. The alien let out a guttural roar before collapsing. Xara seized the opportunity and fired at another Vrell, her shot precise and lethal. The remaining Vrell quickly realized they were being ambushed. They regrouped, their leader barking orders in a harsh, guttural language. Jack and Xara continued their assault, using the forest to their advantage. Despite their superior technology, the Vrell were not accustomed to the dense, unpredictable terrain. A fierce battle ensued, with Jack and Xara using every trick they had learned from each other. Jack's military training and Xara's knowledge of alien tactics complemented each other perfectly. They moved with precision and coordination, slowly whittling down the Vrell forces. As the last Vrell soldier fell, Jack and Xara finally allowed themselves a moment to catch their breath. They were exhausted but victorious. The threat had been neutralized, at least for now. Jack approached Xara, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We did it. They're gone." Xara nodded, though her expression remained troubled. "This is only the beginning, Jack. They will send more. They won't stop until they find me." Jack looked into her eyes, seeing the weight of her words. "Then we need to be ready. We'll keep working on the pod, but we also need to prepare for their return. We'll find a way to protect you." Xara gave a determined nod. "Together, we will." As they made their way back to the cabin, Jack and Xara knew that their fight was far from over. The Vrell threat loomed large, but their bond and shared resolve gave them hope. They would face whatever came their way, united in their struggle for survival. Their immediate priority was to fortify the cabin and continue repairing the escape pod. But beyond that, they needed a plan to deal with the Vrell once and for all. Xara's knowledge of her enemies would be crucial, and Jack's combat experience would provide the tactical edge they needed. The battle had only just begun, but Jack and Xara were ready to face it head-on, trusting in their growing bond and the strength they drew from each other. Together, they would find a way to overcome the Vrell and secure a future where both of their worlds could coexist in peace. Allies and enemies. The aftermath of the Vrell attack left Jack and Xara in a state of heightened alertness. They worked tirelessly, fortifying the cabin and preparing for future assaults. But they knew they couldn't do it alone. They needed allies, someone with the resources and expertise to help them fend off the relentless threat of the Vrell. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Xara broached the topic. "Jack, we need more help. We cannot fight the Vrell alone. Is there anyone you trust who can aid us?" Jack pondered her question, thinking of the few people he still kept in touch with. "There's someone who might be able to help. An old friend of mine, Marcus. He served with me in the military and now runs a private security firm. If anyone can help us, it's him." The decision was made. They would reach out to Marcus and explain the situation, hoping he would believe their incredible story. Jack used his satellite phone to contact Marcus, arranging a discreet meeting at a nearby town. The following day, they set off, taking care to avoid drawing attention to themselves. Xara disguised herself with a hooded cloak, hiding her alien features. The journey was tense, each moment filled with the fear of encountering more Vrell. When they arrived at the agreed-upon location, a small, secluded diner, Marcus was already waiting. He was a tall, imposing figure with a stern expression that softened slightly when he saw Jack. "Jack, it's been a long time," Marcus said, extending his hand. Jack shook it firmly. "It has, Marcus. Thanks for meeting us on such short notice." Marcus glanced at Xara, his eyes narrowing in curiosity. "You said you needed help. What's going on?" Jack took a deep breath, launching into an explanation of everything that had happened: Xara's arrival, the Vrell threat, and their need for assistance. Marcus listened intently, his skepticism gradually replaced by concern. "This is a lot to take in," Marcus admitted, glancing at Xara. "But if what you're saying is true, we can't ignore it. I'll help you, Jack. We'll get my team together and see what we can do." Xara stepped forward, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Marcus. Your help means a great deal to us." Marcus nodded, his expression serious. "We'll need to move quickly. The Vrell won't wait, and we need to be prepared for their next move." Back at the cabin, Marcus and his team set to work, integrating advanced security measures and weaponry into the existing fortifications. They also helped Jack and Xara develop a more comprehensive strategy for dealing with the Vrell. Xara shared her knowledge of the Vrell's tactics and technology, helping Marcus and his team understand what they were up against. They devised plans for ambushes, traps, and defensive maneuvers, preparing for every possible scenario. During this time, Jack and Xara's bond with Marcus deepened. They found in him a steadfast ally, someone who shared their determination to protect Earth and ensure Xara's safety. Marcus, in turn, grew to respect and admire Xara, recognizing her bravery and resilience. But as they prepared, they couldn't ignore the fact that the Vrell were undoubtedly regrouping and planning their next move. Xara knew that the Vrell would stop at nothing to capture her and that their next attack would be even more formidable. One evening, as the three of them reviewed their plans, Xara spoke up. "Marcus, Jack, we need to consider another possibility. We need to find a way to contact my people and call for reinforcements. If we can get a message to Lyris, they might be able to send help." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "That makes sense. But how do we reach them?" Xara pointed to her damaged escape pod. "We need to finish repairing the pod. It's our best chance to send a signal strong enough to reach Lyris. With the right equipment and resources, we can do it. Marcus and Jack exchanged a glance, both understanding the urgency and importance of Xara's plan. "All right," Jack said. "Let's get to work. We'll do whatever it takes to get that signal out." As they worked on the pod, the camaraderie among them grew. They shared stories, laughed, and found moments of levity amidst the constant tension. Xara felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced since leaving Lyris, and Jack was grateful for the renewed sense of purpose and connection. However, their preparations were abruptly interrupted one night when an explosion rocked the cabin. The ground shook, and the air was filled with the sound of blaring alarms and the smell of burning debris. "The Vrell!" Xara shouted, grabbing her weapon. Marcus quickly rallied his team, barking orders to defend their position. Jack and Xara joined the fray, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. The Vrell attacked with ferocity, their advanced weaponry cutting through the forest like a hot knife through butter. But Marcus and his team were ready. They fought back with equal determination, using their knowledge of the terrain and their newly installed defenses to their advantage. Amidst the chaos, Jack and Xara found themselves fighting side by side, their bond and trust in each other tested to the limit. They moved in sync, covering each other and taking down Vrell soldiers with precision. Despite their efforts, the Vrell's numbers were overwhelming. Marcus's team held the line, but it was clear they were being pushed back. The situation grew dire as more Vrell poured into the clearing, their relentless assault threatening to overrun the defenders. In a desperate bid to turn the tide, Xara activated the escape pod's emergency beacon, hoping it would draw the Vrell's attention and buy them some time. The beacon's bright, pulsating light illuminated the battlefield, momentarily distracting the Vrell soldiers. Seizing the opportunity, Marcus led a counterattack, pushing the Vrell back and gaining precious ground. Jack and Xara fought with renewed vigor, their determination unwavering. As the battle raged on, a powerful explosion erupted from the Vrell's ranks. A figure emerged from the smoke, a tall, imposing Vrell leader clad in advanced armor. He surveyed the battlefield with cold, calculating eyes, clearly searching for Xara. Xara's heart sank as she recognized the leader. "That's General Korvath," she said, her voice trembling. "He's one of their top commanders. We have to stop him." Jack nodded, his grip tightening on his rifle. "Let's take him down." The fight against General Korvath was fierce and brutal. The Vrell leader's advanced weaponry and combat skills made him a formidable opponent. But Jack and Xara fought with everything they had, their combined strength and determination driving them forward. In a final, desperate move, Xara used the escape pod's remaining energy to overload its core, creating a powerful electromagnetic pulse. The pulse disrupted the Vrell's technology, giving the defenders a crucial advantage. Marcus and his team seized the moment, launching a coordinated assault on General Korvath and his remaining forces. The Vrell leader fought back with ruthless efficiency, but the defenders' determination and unity proved too much. With a final, defiant roar, General Korvath fell, his body collapsing in a heap. The remaining Vrell soldiers, disoriented and leaderless, quickly retreated, fleeing into the forest. The battle was won, but the cost was high. The cabin and much of the surrounding area were in ruins, and many of Marcus's team were injured. But they had survived, and the Vrell had been driven back, at least for now. As they tended to the wounded and began to assess the damage, Jack and Xara shared a moment of quiet reflection. They knew the fight was far from over, but they also knew they had found allies they could rely on. "Thank you, Marcus," Xara said, her voice filled with gratitude. "We couldn't have done this without you and your team." Marcus nodded, a weary but proud smile on his face. "We're in this together, Xara. We'll keep fighting, and we'll find a way to send that signal." Jack placed a reassuring hand on Xara's shoulder. "We'll get through this, Xara. We have each other, and we have our allies. We won't give up." As they stood amidst the aftermath of the battle, united in their resolve, they knew that their fight against the Vrell was far from over, but with their growing bond and the support of their allies, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would continue to build their bonds, strengthen their defenses, and find a way to overcome the Vrell threat once and for all. The battle. The days following the Vrell attack were a whirlwind of activity and preparation. The battle had taken its toll, but it had also galvanized Jack, Xara, Marcus, and their team. They knew that the Vrell would return, likely in greater numbers and with more advanced weaponry. The time to strike back and take the fight to the enemy was now. The escape pod, though damaged, was salvageable. With Marcus's resources and Xara's knowledge, they managed to get it operational enough to send a distress signal to Lyris. Now, they just had to hold out until reinforcements arrived. "How long do you think it'll take for your people to get here?" Jack asked Xara one evening, as they stood outside the cabin, watching the sunset. Xara sighed, her gaze distant. "It's hard to say. It depends on how quickly they receive the signal and how far away they are. It could be days, or it could be weeks." Jack nodded, understanding the uncertainty. "Then we need to be ready for anything. We'll prepare for the worst and hope for the best." The team worked tirelessly to fortify their position. They set up traps and barriers around the perimeter, installed advanced surveillance systems, and stockpiled weapons and supplies. Marcus's team, seasoned and disciplined, executed their tasks with precision and efficiency. Amidst the preparations, Jack and Xara continued to train together, honing their combat skills and deepening their bond. They developed a rhythm, moving in sync and anticipating each other's actions. They knew that their unity and coordination would be crucial in the upcoming battle. One night, as they sat by the fire, Xara turned to Jack. "Jack, I want to thank you for everything. You saved my life and gave me hope. I don't know how I can ever repay you." Jack smiled, his eyes warm. "You don't need to repay me, Xara. We're friends. We look out for each other. And we'll get through this together." Xara's eyes shimmered with emotion. "Yes. Together." As the days passed, the tension mounted. The anticipation of the Vrell's return was palpable, but the team remained focused and resolute. They knew that the fate of their worlds depended on their ability to withstand the impending assault. The night before the expected attack, Marcus gathered everyone for a final briefing. "We've done everything we can to prepare. The Vrell will come, and they'll come hard. But we're ready. We'll hold this ground, no matter what. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and watch each other's backs." Jack and Xara exchanged a determined nod. They were ready. The next morning, the calm before the storm was shattered by the ominous hum of approaching ships. The Vrell had arrived. "Positions." Marcus barked, and the team sprang into action. Jack and Xara took their places on the front line, weapons at the ready. They could see the Vrell ships descending through the trees, their sleek, black forms casting eerie shadows on the ground. The first wave of Vrell soldiers emerged from the ships, their reptilian features cold and menacing. They advanced with precision, their weapons trained on the defenders. "Wait for my signal," Marcus instructed, his voice steady despite the tension. The Vrell drew closer, their movements methodical and relentless. The defenders held their breath, waiting for the right moment. "Now!" Marcus shouted, and the battlefield erupted in chaos. The defenders unleashed a torrent of firepower, their weapons blazing as they fought to repel the Vrell. The air was filled with the sounds of gunfire, explosions, and the guttural roars of the Vrell. Jack and Xara moved as one, their training and bond guiding their actions. They took down Vrell soldiers with precise shots, covering each other and pushing forward. The Vrell fought back with equal ferocity, their advanced weaponry cutting through the defenses. But the defenders held their ground, their determination unyielding. Amidst the chaos, Xara spotted General Corvath, the Vrell commander who had led the previous attack. He was directing his troops, his cold eyes scanning the battlefield. "Jack, there!" Xara shouted, pointing to Corvath. Jack nodded, understanding immediately. "We take him out, we disrupt their command. Let's go." They fought their way through the fray, their path to Corvath blocked by waves of full soldiers. But they pressed on, their resolve unwavering. As they closed in on Corvath, the Vrell commander turned his gaze to them, his expression unreadable. He raised his weapon, and Jack and Xara dove for cover, narrowly avoiding the deadly blast. "We have to be smart about this," Jack said, catching his breath. "He's not going to go down easy." Xara nodded, formulating a plan. "We need to flank him. I'll draw his fire, and you take the shot." "Be careful," Jack said, concern in his eyes. "I will," Xara replied, steeling herself. Xara emerged from cover, firing at Corvath and drawing his attention. The Vrell commander focused on her, his weapon trained on her position. Jack moved quickly, circling around and finding a clear shot. With a deep breath, Jack aimed and fired. The shot hit its mark, striking Corvath and sending him to the ground. The Vrell commander's roar of pain echoed through the battlefield. The fall of Corvath sent a ripple of confusion through the Vrell ranks. The defenders seized the opportunity, launching a coordinated assault that pushed the Vrell back. Jack and Xara regrouped, their faces determined. "We did it," Jack said, his voice filled with relief. "Not yet," Xara replied, her eyes scanning the battlefield. "We need to make sure they retreat." The defenders pressed their advantage, pushing the Vrell forces into a full retreat. The invaders, now leaderless and disorganized, fled back to their ships. As the last Vrell ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky, a cheer went up from the defenders. They had won the battle, but the cost had been high. The battlefield was littered with the fallen, both Vrell and human. The survivors moved among them, tending to the wounded and honoring the dead. Marcus approached Jack and Xara, his face grim but proud. "We did it. We held them off." Jack nodded, his eyes heavy with exhaustion and relief. "Thanks to you and your team, Marcus. We couldn't have done it without you." Xara placed a hand on Marcus's arm. "Thank you, Marcus. Your bravery and leadership saved us all." Marcus nodded, his expression softening. "We're in this together. And we'll keep fighting until the Vrell are gone for good." As the defenders began to regroup and assess the situation, a familiar hum filled the air. Xara looked up, her heart skipping a beat. A ship was approaching, but this time, it was not a Vrell vessel. "It's them," Xara said, hope lighting up her face. "It's my people." The Lyran ship descended gracefully, landing in the clearing. The hatch opened, and a group of Lyran soldiers emerged, their expressions filled with relief and determination. Xara rushed forward, embracing the Lyran commander. "We sent the signal. I'm so glad you received it." The commander nodded, his expression serious. "We came as soon as we could. The Vrell won't be able to stand against us now." Jack and Marcus joined Xara, their expressions filled with hope and determination. They had new allies, and together, they would continue the fight against the Vrell. As the sun set on the battlefield, casting a golden light over the weary defenders, they knew that this was just the beginning. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. United in their cause, with new allies by their side, Jack, Xara, and their comrades prepared for the next chapter in their struggle. They had faced the Vrell and emerged victorious, but their fight for freedom and survival would continue. Together, they would forge a new beginning, building a future where both their worlds could coexist in peace. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. Decisions and departures. In the aftermath of the battle, a solemn yet hopeful atmosphere settled over the camp. The arrival of the Lyran reinforcements brought a sense of relief and possibility. Jack, Xara, and Marcus found themselves at a crossroads, contemplating their next moves and the future of their worlds. As the defenders worked to repair the damage and tend to the wounded, Jack and Xara walked through the camp, discussing the events that had transpired and what lay ahead. "With the Lyrans here, we have a real chance to push the Vrell back for good," Jack said, his voice filled with determination. "But it won't be easy. They'll come back stronger." Xara nodded, her eyes scanning the busy camp. "We need to form a united front. My people will help, but we'll need the support of your world too. We have to convince your leaders to join us in this fight. Jack knew she was right. The Vrell threat was not just a Lyran problem, it was a threat to Earth as well. They needed to build alliances, and quickly. That evening, the Lyran commander, General Ralith, called a meeting with Jack, Xara, Marcus, and his key officers. The group gathered in a makeshift command center, a sense of urgency in the air. "We've assessed the situation," General Ralith began, his tone authoritative yet understanding. "The Vrell will regroup and launch another attack. We must strike first and take the fight to them." Marcus nodded in agreement. "We need to coordinate our efforts and plan a strategic assault. The element of surprise will be our advantage." Jack looked at Xara, then back to the group. "We also need to involve Earth's authorities. If we can get the military and governments to support us, we'll have a better chance." Xara took a deep breath. "I can reach out to the Lyran Council and get their official support. But convincing Earth's leaders will be challenging. We need to show them the urgency and reality of the threat." General Ralith nodded. "We'll provide any evidence and support you need. The Vrell cannot be allowed to continue their aggression unchecked." The meeting continued late into the night, with detailed plans and strategies being discussed. They decided that Xara and Jack would travel to Earth's major governments to present their case, while Marcus and General Ralith would prepare the joint forces for the impending assault. The next morning, as the sun rose over the camp, Jack and Xara prepared for their journey. Marcus and General Ralith saw them off, giving them final words of encouragement. "Good luck, Jack," Marcus said, clasping his friend's shoulder. "We'll be ready for your return." Jack nodded. "Thanks, Marcus. We'll get the support we need." Xara turned to General Ralith, her expression resolute. "I'll ensure our council stands with us, thank you for your support." Ralith nodded. "Stay safe, both of you. We'll be ready when you return." Jack and Xara boarded a Lyran shuttle, which would take them to the nearest major city. As the shuttle lifted off, they watched the camp grow smaller below them, their minds focused on the mission ahead. The journey was quiet, each lost in their thoughts. Jack could sense Xara's tension and reached over to take her hand. "We'll make them understand, Xara. We have to." Xara squeezed his hand, a determined look in her eyes. "Yes, we will. For both our worlds." When they arrived in the city, they were met with skepticism and disbelief. Convincing Earth's leaders of the Vrell threat and the need for a united front was a daunting task. They faced bureaucratic hurdles, political skepticism, and outright disbelief. But Jack and Xara were relentless. They presented evidence, shared their experiences, and appealed to the leaders' sense of duty to protect their planet. Gradually, their efforts began to bear fruit. One pivotal meeting took place in the United Nations Assembly, where Jack and Xara addressed the representatives of the world's nations. They spoke passionately, their words resonating with those in attendance. "The Vrell are not just a threat to my world," Xara said, her voice strong and clear. "They are a threat to yours as well. We must stand together, or we will fall divided." Jack followed, his voice equally compelling. "We have a chance to stop them, but we need your help. Our futures depend on our ability to unite and fight back." The assembly was silent for a moment, the weight of their words sinking in. Then, one by one, the representatives began to voice their support. It wasn't unanimous, but it was a start. With the backing of key nations and military leaders, Jack and Xara returned to the camp with renewed hope. They had secured the support they needed, and now it was time to prepare for the final assault on the Vrell. As they rejoined their allies, a sense of purpose and determination filled the air. The camp buzzed with activity as preparations for the assault began in earnest. Lyran and human soldiers trained together, their unity growing stronger with each passing day. In the midst of the preparations, Jack and Xara took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. They stood together, watching the sunset over the camp, feeling a profound sense of connection and resolve. "We're ready," Xara said softly, her eyes on the horizon. "For whatever comes next." Jack nodded, his heart swelling with pride and determination. Together, we can face anything. As the final preparations were made, the Allies stood united, ready to take the fight to the Vrell and secure a future for both their worlds. The battle ahead would be fierce and challenging, but they were prepared, their spirits unbroken. The decision had been made, and the time for departure was at hand. They would face the Vrell, not as isolated worlds, but as a united force, determined to protect their homes and secure a new beginning. With a final look at each other, Jack and Xara joined their comrades, ready to embark on the next chapter of their journey. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they also knew that they were stronger together. As they boarded the ships that would take them to the heart of the Vrell's territory, they felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The battle for their worlds was about to begin, and they were ready to face it head-on. United in their cause, they would fight for a future where both their worlds could thrive in peace. The journey ahead would be long and arduous, but with their bond and the support of their allies, they knew they could overcome any challenge. The fight for survival, for freedom, and for a new beginning had just begun. Together, they would forge a path forward, facing whatever trials lay ahead with courage and resilience. The battle awaited, and they were ready. Farewell and hope. The final preparations for the assault on the Vrell stronghold were complete. The combined forces of Lyrans and humans were ready to embark on the most critical mission of their lives. The atmosphere in the camp was a mix of anticipation, determination, and a touch of fear. Everyone knew the stakes were high, but they also knew that unity gave them strength. Jack and Xara spent their last night before the departure in a quiet corner of the camp, reflecting on their journey and the bonds they had formed. The fire crackled between them, casting flickering shadows on their faces. "Do you remember the night we first met?" Xara asked, her voice soft and nostalgic. Jack smiled, nodding. "How could I forget? You crash-landed in my backyard, and my life was never the same again." Xara chuckled, the sound filled with warmth. "You saved my life, Jack. More times than I can count. And you gave me hope when I had none." Jack reached out, taking her hand in his. "You did the same for me, Xara. You showed me that there's more to life than just surviving. You gave me a purpose." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their journey hanging between them. The bond they had formed was unbreakable, forged in the fires of battle and tempered by their shared experiences. "We've come so far," Xara said, her voice filled with emotion. "And now, we're about to face our greatest challenge yet." Jack squeezed her hand, his eyes meeting hers. "We'll get through this, Xara. Together." As dawn broke, the camp buzzed with activity. Soldiers suited up, checked their weapons, and prepared for the mission ahead. The mood was solemn but resolute. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. General Ralith called for a final briefing, gathering the key leaders and officers. Jack, Xara, and Marcus stood side by side, their expressions serious and focused. "The Vrell will not expect an assault of this scale," Ralith began. "We have the element of surprise, but we must move quickly and decisively. Our primary objective is to disable their command center and disrupt their operations." Marcus added, "We'll split into 3 teams. Team Alpha will lead the frontal assault, drawing the Vrell's attention. Team Bravo will flank from the west, targeting their supply lines. Team Charlie, led by Jack and Xara, will infiltrate the command center and take down their leadership." Jack and Xara exchanged a determined nod. They were ready. As the briefing concluded, the soldiers boarded their respective transports. The Lyran and human ships lifted off, heading towards the Vrell stronghold. The journey was tense, each person lost in their thoughts, steeling themselves for the battle ahead. When they arrived at the Vrell's territory, the sight that greeted them was daunting. The Vrell stronghold was a fortress, bristling with advanced weaponry and surrounded by heavily armed guards. But the Allied forces were undeterred. The assault began with a coordinated strike, Team Alpha launching a barrage of firepower that rocked the Vrell defenses. Explosions lit up the sky, and the sound of battle echoed through the air. Team Bravo moved swiftly, cutting off the Vrell's supply lines and sowing confusion in their ranks. The Vrell, caught off guard by the scale and intensity of the attack, scrambled to respond. Meanwhile, Jack and Xara led Team Charlie through the chaos, their goal clear: infiltrate the command center and take down the Vrell leadership. They moved with purpose, their training and bond guiding their actions. As they approached the command center, they encountered fierce resistance. The Vrell guards fought with ruthless efficiency, but Jack and Xara pressed on, their determination unwavering. They breached the outer defenses, fighting their way through the corridors of the command center. The air was thick with tension and the sounds of battle, but they remained focused on their objective. Finally, they reached the heart of the command center, where General Korvath awaited. The Vrell commander, still nursing wounds from their previous encounter, glared at them with a mix of hatred and determination. "This ends now," Jack said, his voice filled with resolve. Korvath snarled, raising his weapon. "You will not stop us." The final confrontation was brutal and intense. Jack and Xara fought with everything they had, their movements synchronized and their resolve unbreakable. Korvath was a formidable opponent, but their combined strength proved too much for him. With a final, decisive strike, Korvath fell. The Vrell command center was in disarray, their leadership shattered. The Allied forces pressed their advantage, driving the Vrell back and securing the stronghold. As the dust settled and the sounds of battle faded, a sense of victory and relief washed over the Allied forces. They had achieved the impossible, striking a decisive blow against the Vrell. Jack and Xara stood amidst the aftermath, their hearts pounding with adrenaline and triumph. They had done it. Together, they had faced their greatest challenge and emerged victorious. But with victory came the bittersweet reality of what lay ahead. The war was not over, and there were still battles to be fought. The Allies would need to remain vigilant and united to ensure lasting peace. In the days that followed, the camp transformed from a battleground to a place of healing and rebuilding. The Lyrans and humans worked side by side, strengthening their bond and forging a path forward. One evening, as the sun set over the camp, Jack and Xara found a quiet moment together. They stood on a hill, overlooking the bustling activity below, their hearts filled with a mix of hope and sorrow. "I can't believe it's over," Xara said softly. "But there's still so much to do." Jack nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "We have a long road ahead, but we'll face it together. No matter where it leads." Xara turned to him, her eyes filled with gratitude and affection. "Thank you, Jack. For everything." Jack smiled, his heart swelling with emotion. "Thank you, Xara. You changed my life in ways I never imagined." As they stood together, the future uncertain but filled with promise, they knew that their bond would endure. They had faced the darkness and emerged into the light, their hearts forever intertwined. The time for farewells was bittersweet. The Lyrans prepared to return to their homeworld, taking with them the hope of a brighter future. The humans, now united and strengthened by their experiences, stood ready to rebuild and protect their world. Jack and Xara shared a final embrace, their hearts heavy but filled with hope. "This isn't goodbye," Xara said, her voice firm. "We'll see each other again." Jack nodded, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Until then, Xara." As the Lyran ships lifted off, heading towards the stars, Jack watched them disappear into the sky. He felt a sense of loss, but also a profound sense of hope. The war had brought them together, and their bond had given them the strength to face the challenges ahead. They had fought for a future where both their worlds could coexist in peace, and now, that future was within reach. As Jack turned to rejoin his comrades, he knew that their journey was far from over. There would be new challenges, new battles, and new beginnings. But with the strength of their bond and the unity of their allies, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The sun set on the camp, casting a golden light over the weary but hopeful defenders. The battle had been won, but the war for peace and a new beginning continued. And with each step forward, they carried with them the hope of a brighter future, united in their cause and strengthened by their bond. The end of one journey marked the beginning of another. And together, they would face it all, with courage, resilience, and the unbreakable power of hope. Epilogue. Years had passed since the final battle against the Vrell. The scars of war had begun to heal, and the alliance between Earth and Lyris had grown stronger than ever. Jack and Xara, once unlikely allies, had become symbols of unity and resilience, their story inspiring countless others. On Earth, the memory of the Vrell invasion served as a reminder of the importance of cooperation and vigilance. Governments worked together to rebuild and strengthen their defenses, ensuring that they would never again be caught off guard. On Lyris, the victory over the Vrell had sparked a new era of unity and progress. The Council, led by Xara, worked tirelessly to rebuild their society and forge stronger bonds with their human allies. Jack and Xara had remained close, their bond deepening with each passing year. They continued to fight for peace and justice, using their experiences to guide and inspire others. One day, as they stood on a hill overlooking the rebuilt city of New Lyris, Jack turned to Xara, a smile playing on his lips. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Xara nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "Yes, we have. And we've made a difference." As they looked out over the city, they knew that their journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges to face and battles to fight. But with their bond and the support of their allies, they were ready for whatever the future held. Together, they stood on the brink of a new era, united in their determination to build a better world for all. And as they faced the challenges ahead, they knew that as long as they stood together, nothing could stand in their way. The sun set over the city, casting a warm glow over the landscape. As they watched the sun dip below the horizon, Jack and Xara knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, for in the end, it was their bond that had carried them through the darkness, and it would be their bond that would light the way to a brighter tomorrow.